Hello, I'm Kat Keane, Health Educator from Arthritis, New South Wales, and in this episode of Empowering You, I'm going to be talking to you about how to deal with your diagnosis. Dealing with your diagnosis. Before I get started, I'd just like to set the scene with this particular episode. First of all, I'd like to talk of three themes about dealing with your diagnosis, and these themes have come from people who have phoned in on the info line. These are themes that have been collected over emails, face-to-face talking, communication, interviews, and surveys. And furthermore, these themes have been taken from people who are younger, so a younger demographic or population. So I'm talking people who are 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And these people are those with rheumatic autoimmune conditions, including rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, and psoriatic arthritis. This also includes some people who have fibromyalgia as well. So it's not directed solely, it's not directed at those people with osteoarthritis and the older demographic. This is more directed at the younger demographic with a rheumatic autoimmune condition. Now, these three themes that have been pulled from a lot of conversations and data that we have and from the time I've been at Arthritis New South Wales, and they've been questioned in the form of questions or discussions. So number one, I'll be talking about grief. What is grief? Generally, and in the context of arthritis, looking at normalising that and validating that, or that feeling or experience. A couple of tips and ways on how to deal with grief, and then again, a couple of ways in which to deal with grief, but looking at or providing the tips to the partners or caregivers or family. So let's get started. So first of all, grief and bereavement. Grief is quite common and is the normal internal feeling one experiences in reaction to a loss. And bereavement is the state of having experienced that loss. So a little bit of semantics there. I will just refer to the word grief or grieving in this presentation. Just to note that it is not grief, is not depression or anxiety, though they can have there are some common aspects to these, and I'll speak about that shortly. But the common symptoms here, you may be familiar with the 5 stages of grief. In here I've got 7 stages. That's also quite a common theory as well, though it's from Kubler-Ross from 1969, and these are applied to any significant personal loss. So for example, the loss of a job, the loss of a relationship, to do with one's own health or anticipating one's own health, and of course as well as the death of a loved one. Also, in that these stages don't have to all occur, so you may only experience, if you experience any, 1 or 2 of these, and that they can reoccur over time as well. So these may include shock and disbelief, and this might be more so at the actual stage where you are given your diagnosis. Denial, like, why is this happening to me? And almost in a sense feeling sorry for yourself, which is really quite normal. Bargaining, guilt, anger, I'm angry that this is happening to me. Depression, so feeling sad, feeling alone, feeling like you're only going through this, it's just you. Not wanting to get up out of bed, sleeping a lot, thinking about it a lot. And then hopefully and eventually acceptance and hope. So commonly you hear of grief in the context of a death of a loved one or job loss, but not always in the context of physical or functional loss. And just because you may not hear about it in that particular context doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So those people with autoimmune rheumatic conditions can have significant disability due to their condition. They can be in significant pain, and they are on types of medication that are quite heavy. They often feel tired and fatigued, and in some cases, such as fibromyalgia, cognitive, so executive functioning, such as memory, can also be affected. So just to provide some context and make this relatable, here are some quotes that I have accumulated while talking to people with particular conditions. So rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, psoriatic arthritis, and more. Obviously, I can't disclose who these people are, so their particular age, what they have, sort of thing. I don't want to disclose too much, but these are certainly common themes, and I think people don't realize that what they're saying is forms of grief or ways of grieving, or they're experiencing that, but they're not actually aware. These quotes are from the ages 20s and 30s up to 40s and 50s. So some are just starting out studying, some are wanting children, some are in that sandwich sort of age bracket where they might have dependents, but they have aging parents, and they're sort of looking after two different types of people, if you like, not enough time for themselves. And some of them at the height of their career, being given a diagnosis for the first time, or dealing with their conditions and its ups and downs. So number one, I can't keep up with my duties at work anymore. The fatigue is almost debilitating, and my memory is so poor. So this was devastating for this woman who called me up and was talking about her particular condition and how it was affecting her. She also went on to say something like, it's almost as though I'm grieving my past good health and physical abilities. So she was almost aware that she was grieving a lost part of her. I need to get used to my new body, and it can really get me down. So while medication is great, it can put you into almost like a pseudo remission. You might come off that medication, or you might swap it, or you might need a higher dose. Your condition can certainly flare up, and it can still, if there's been damage enough around the joints, it can still lead to or be problematic later on. And so this person may have been having trouble moving, and it's a new body for them, and they get really down about it, and that can be a process in itself of grieving. I want children one day and wonder how things will pan out. It can get me down thinking about it. And lastly, it's not just work, but I also miss my social life. I get sad and angry that I can't participate like I used to. So not only to do with work, but also to do with social life, missing out on that, grieving that, maybe missing friends, maybe not having as many friends anymore. So let's normalize and validate. So first of all, it's very normal to grieve, and to grieve in this particular situation. You may have heard of it as having a rainy day, and we all have rainy days for particular reasons, and you may have more than the typical person who doesn't have a rheumatic autoimmune condition, and that's okay. It's okay to feel down some days. You can't have the yin without the yang, or that kind of thing, but it's true. Your symptoms, however, if they persist, like feeling down, feeling sad, not wanting to get out of bed, feeling really down on yourself, maybe ruminating on what you've lost or what you can't have, if this persists past 6 to 12 months and the severity is bad enough that it disrupts your daily activities and your mood, the DSM-5 or the ICD may categorize you as having persistent complex bereavement disorder or prolonged grief disorder. Now, that's not there to scare you or anything like that. However, it might help to validate you that, in fact, sometimes people's grief can be so bad that it is classified as a mental health condition. And that's good and bad. Nobody wants a mental health condition. Nobody wants a physical condition that debilitates them physically or emotionally. However, when somebody is labeled with a condition or diagnosed, it can certainly help to inform next steps and treatment. Please also be aware that higher risk of, or it can also be comorbid, that is grief, with depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Not to say that you will have this, just saying that it is a common, it can be commonly associated with having or going through grief. So tips, how to deal with your diagnosis. Now, there are many. These are only a few. Give yourself time and go easy on yourself. This would be sort of that first stage if you were told that you've just got this particular diagnosis and sort of feeling shocked. So let yourself be shocked. That's all part of the process. Accept your feelings and acknowledge and know that there is a process, and not every day is going to be a bad day or a rainy day. Talk to others. So you might like to spend time talking with friends and family. Try not to isolate yourself. You might want to talk about your condition, or you might not want anything to do with it, and that's fine. Perhaps preempt that. Take care of yourself. Well, of course. I'll say exercise regularly, and you might say that's hard, and I'd understand. The days that you're feeling good and you don't have a flare-up, and the days that you can move really well, exercise. On the days that are tough, maybe you don't exercise as vigorously. Maybe you do some gentle yoga instead, or just a nice walk. Eating well, so not a lot of inflammatory foods, so fast foods, high fat, high sugar. Mediterranean diet might help in that regard. And try to get some good sleep and seek help, ask for help. A psychologist can certainly help take care of your mental state. Find new or return to your hobbies. Get back into the activities that bring you joy. Why not do something that makes you happy? Join a support group. So speaking with others who are also going through what you're going through can really help you, validate you, make you feel more connected. There's certainly understanding there. But choose the support that works for you. And just on that note, Arthritis New South Wales recognises the gap in terms of its support services for that sort of middle-aged demographic with autoimmune rheumatic conditions, and we're working hard on developing something for you. And this might be a hard pill to swallow, but find ways in which to live with uncertainty. So no matter how much treatment you undergo, how many healthy lifestyle changes you make, how much support you have, you can't control the ultimate outcome of your disease or your disease journey. You may begin feeling really hopeful, and that's good, and then later be crushed when a particular treatment or medication doesn't work. Unfortunately, there is no real cure yet. There's only medications that can lessen the severity of your immune system flaring. And so ultimately, you've got to find ways to live with uncertainty and not being in control of things. So I guess the strategy going forward is know what you can control and control that, but also be aware of what the uncertainties and things that you can't control. And in a way that's almost freeing for you. So these are some tips for the parents, the caregivers, the partners, and the friends and family that have a loved one that has a rheumatic autoimmune condition. So firstly, understand that you can also grieve and be emotionally affected. it's good to be open and honest about your feelings to yourself and to others, and find some coping mechanisms. So certainly acknowledge your feelings and your grief if that's what you're going through, and that's normal. Try your best to understand the condition. So at a good and appropriate time, ask the person what it's like. Perhaps you want to do your own research as well. Learning to listen, so active listening, and just something simple as paying attention. Look at who you're talking with. Actually visualize what is being said and concentrate on that, and not about what you're going to talk about next. Once they finish talking, maybe you can then prompt, and then you can ask questions. This is a hard one as well. Accept that you won't be able to make the pain go away. There are certainly things that you could do to help, but you're never going to be the one that will make that pain go away, as much as you'd like to just take it for them. And that's a difficult one to understand, because people in pain with these particular conditions is just invisible. So yeah, they can say it, and sometimes it might be difficult to believe that they're in pain, but they are. Perhaps the person with the pain who has the condition can try and liken it to something that that person has experienced. Make plans. So be normal. This person who has this condition just wants to live a normal life. So make plans to go out and have fun, but just know that they need to be flexible. Maybe have plan A and then back up plan B and C. Ask how you can help this person best. And it's okay to get frustrated at times. The person who has the condition will be frustrated, can get frustrated. You want to help this person get out of pain, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes there'll be friction between the two of you, and that's okay. It sucks. And it's okay for you to feel frustrated too. So take some time to yourself, and that's really, really important for yourself and the relationship you have with this person. And this is for the person who has the condition, and this is the tips that you might like to take going forward when you're talking about your condition to others. So be prepared with an explanation about your condition, just short and easy to understand. And once you've told them, give people time to digest your diagnosis. If they're close by, close to you, like your partner or your parents, for example, discuss together strategies that are going to best help you when you're in pain. At home, for example. And don't be afraid to reach out to counselling, because it can really help work through tough issues with a partner, for example, or with parents, for example. So lastly, and concluding this, it's okay to feel down about your diagnosis. It's okay to have a rainy day. Yes, you can certainly grieve in the context of how your arthritis affects you. It's a personal loss that is significant to you. And that's certainly normal, and it's certainly valid that you feel that way. It not only affects you, but it can affect others around you that love and care about you. A good place to start is understanding for everybody, and hopefully and eventually acceptance. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and just in general, try to work together as much as you can. So work together with your loved ones, family, friends, partners, parents, and doctors as well. So if there's anything I've mentioned today that may have been triggering or upsetting, there are some mental health contact lines. They are on the screen now. Also, healthdirect.gov.au have some further mental health support contacts also. Lastly is our references. Lastly is feedback and questions. Please throw it at me. You can email me or you can call. The number is on the screen. And lastly, of course, feedback. Thank you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Empowering You, dealing with your diagnosis.